Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on Superman and Lois Season 2, and this is going to be my trailer breakdown for episode 10 for this season, otherwise entitled Bizarros in a Bizarro World. But of course, before we get into anything else, let's actually watch this extended trailer.
Jordan, you don't have to keep doing this.
It's been a month. Dad's never been gone this long.
I'm sure he has a really good reason, okay?
Clark's coming back, like he always does.
No, Clark? He's still on assignment in Metropolis.
Wow, must be a really big story.
There's something I would like to show you. Something that would change everything.
Lois is pregnant.
I'm gonna be an uncle!
You're giving your dad a major award.
Let me guess, world's greatest dad.
Not this again.
Can we try to have one nice night together as a family? Allie found a portal to another Earth. This would be the end of humanity as we know it.
Superman and Lois. New episodes return Tuesday, April 26th. Free next day only on the CW app.
So firstly, I have to say this, sorry for the late upload on this trailer. The CW aired a different promo after the episode actually aired on the CW. So I did a whole video on that one. And then maybe half an hour before it was, before I was going to release that video, they released this much longer and more just detailed and information giving trailer, if that makes sense. So I scrapped the first one and just focused in on this one rather than uploading two videos on, trailers for the same episode, one after the other. So sorry for the delay, but that's the reason. But last episode was probably one of the more tame episodes for Superman and Lois, especially this season, because it really had no Superman in it, or just Clark. He left at the beginning of the episode, and then there's 3 seconds of him in the Bizarro world right at the end of the episode. But within last episode, Lana officially became mayor, so congratulations to Lana. But we also saw Jordan step up and take on the responsibility of protecting, in this case, Smallville. And it almost felt like an episode of Smallville from back in the day. Not an overuse of powers, but sort of learning your abilities and everything like that, but just with better VFX because we're in the year 2022 now. So it was a really cool episode in regards to that. But right at the end of the episode, Jonathan gets a head pain, and I thought it was initially related to him getting powers because Jordan sort of had he could hear things, and it was sort of a very similar pain that he was having, but it wasn't because of his powers coming through. It's because someone else from the Bizarro world, or his Bizarro version, was on this Earth, and he was experiencing what Clark or Superman was experiencing earlier on into this season. And that is when we see the Bizarro Jonathan looking like Connor Kent from the 90s, with the leather jacket, the red pants, the punk rock style and everything like that. He rocks up, and yeah. Not everything's gone that great on the Bizarro world since Superman's been gone, because he's been gone for a month since we last saw him, at least in the timeline of the show. And this episode, where we'll be going over the trailer, we're going to be piecing everything together by the looks of it. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions, thoughts, theories, predictions, expectations, everything like that. Always curious to read what you guys are thinking. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video and you're looking forward to this episode, why not drop a like on the video to show your support and excitement. Now, firstly, there's no synopsis. That's sort of like the mini bad news, because we love a good old synopsis on the channel. We love reading them. However, it's because, we don't have a synopsis and or promo images, whichever way you want to put it. No synopsis, no promo images, and that's because we're still just under a month away from this episode airing. And those descriptions usually come out around 2 to 3 weeks before an episode airs. Now, I'm not sure if the last episode's title of 30 Days and 30 Nights was a warning for us, because that's pretty much how long we are going to have to wait for this episode to air. So it returns on April 26th. That's the return date. That's the airing date for this episode. Day after my birthday. Is it going to be a birthday gift? Let's hope so. Or a late birthday gift. Let's hope so. Now, I'm not sure the reason for the delay outside of just needing time to finish off the episodes to the degree that they want them. I know Superman and Lois was one of the few shows in Vancouver that had some COVID delays after they started. I don't know what episode it was, but I remember hearing that they had to shut down for a certain period of time. I don't think it was that long. I think it's just more that Superman Lois is much more detailed, and once you pretty much make that the standard on your show, you have to live up to that. And when you're a network TV show, it can make things difficult to be consistent and air at a very consistent rate. Hopefully this is the last break we have, at least extended like 3 to 4 weeks, because that was the issue season 1 had, and it lost a lot of momentum with viewers. And a lot of people just went, well, I'm just going to wait till it's over and I can just binge watch it, whether it's on the CW app or HBO Max, whichever it is. So hopefully this is the last delay and we get the final 6 episodes, including this one, pretty much in a row. Now we start off the trailer with a sort of like recap of the events of last episode to an extent, though it is really just like almost like featuring some footage and clips from the previous episode's trailer, which I thought was a bit odd. So of course I'm going to skip over the analysis and breakdown for any of that stuff because we've already watched it. But the first thing we see in the trailer that is new is some dead, burnt bodies. What an entry point. And no, this is not the Flash. We are of course dealing with a serial murderer who likes to cook bodies over there. But this appears to be the other side of the portal, you know, the Bizarro world side of it. As we can see, one of the helmets that the people who died were wearing when we saw them go through a couple of episodes ago. Also, Anderson wore it when he went through, but he had the pendant, so he was sort of protected. And there's also like a dog tag on the corpse, and they were military people that went through, so yeah, it's obviously one of them. So this could be from Superman's perspective when he gets through to the other side after we saw him go through at the beginning of last episode. Or maybe it could be Ali, because she went through at the beginning of last episode, you know, just before Superman. But, you know, then again, it could also be Anderson as he went in after these dead people did. So it could be any, you know, of those three that are seeing this. But then again, technically, all three of them would have seen the bodies anyway if they come out at the same point. So sort of like a pointless discussion. Now, we do have someone that sounds like Ali telling someone that she can show them something that will make them rethink everything. Now, is she talking to Superman? Is she talking to maybe Anderson? Or maybe even Bizarro? Is this like... We don't know if it's our Ali that's saying this or this is like the Bizarro Ali, because it could be either. That's the difficulty now, because we know that they're just normal on their Earth. They speak normally and everything like that. Like if we had a visual, then I think we'd be able to distinguish between the two, just maybe based off how they dress or something like that. But just based off audio, who knows who she's talking to specifically. But it could be the Bizarro version of Anderson, the normal version of Anderson, or either version of Superman, whether it's the normal or the Bizarro. Who knows who it could be, but Ali's trying to recruit people. But based off the fact that this episode seems to deal a lot with like the past on the Bizarro world and how it led up to, you know, I guess where we saw the Bizarro Superman leave the Bizarro world a few episodes ago, I would assume it's the Bizarro Ali, but because our Ali's over there, it could be either. Flip of the coin. But yeah, speaking about, you know, the history of the Bizarro world, it looks like we're getting Bizarro world flashbacks throughout this episode, and I love a good old flashback, and I'm sure most of you, you guys do as well. It doesn't seem the whole episode is flashbacks, but then again, it could. Or at least it's maybe like book-ended by like the present day, and then like 80% of the middle is all flashbacks. I'm not too sure how they're going to tackle it, but I hope the majority of the episode is flashbacks, because it will really give us a history lesson on the Bizarro world and, you know, what went wrong and, you know, how potentially, you know, Superman and our Earth can, you know, stop it. But then again, it's the opposite. So do you do the same thing that they did because they got it wrong? It's sort of a weird one. It's going to mess with your mind a bit. But we do see Bizarro Clark or Bizarro Kal-El. I don't know if he's going to be called Clark on this Earth, but Bizarro Clark, we'll just call him that, in a bar, looking very different than we usually seen him, alongside his brother Tal-Rho, who I would assume is not called Morgan Edge. But then again, they could make it that Kal-El and Tal-Rho were like separated for most of their lives and only reconnected later. You know, very similar to our Earth, but obviously in a better way for them when they do reconnect. But anyway, thanks to earlier episodes from this season, we know that Tal-Rho is extremely close with Clark, once again, unlike our Earth. Now, Bizarro Clark mentions that Lois is pregnant, so this puts this, I guess, like roughly 15 or 16 years in the past, something like that, and it will be interesting to see their relationship within this episode, because it will clearly be different. And we even get a taste of that when we see Tal-Rho like burst out in excitement that he is going to be an uncle when, you know, Clark tells him that Lois is pregnant. But they are not the only familiar faces in this bar, because Lana is also there as like a server or waitress, whichever way you want to put it. And it's clear that the Bizarro world seems to have a very like punk rock or like grungy aesthetic. And I'm not sure if that's because a good amount of this season is like sort of taking from the 90s comics of Superman, or if that is just like the aesthetic that they wanted to go for. And I mean, it definitely makes it look different, 100%. Now, in the earlier episodes of this season, when Bizarro let loose some information about his world and its differences to ours, he does mention that Tal-Rho's wife betrayed Superman, and we did see Lana as a super soldier earlier in that exact same episode in some other Bizarro World flashbacks. And this does appear to be the first meeting between Lana and Tal, I would assume. Or maybe they've been to the bar a few times and they've made some googly eyes at each other, and this is their like first proper interaction that leads into their relationship. Or a potential relationship, because you would have to think that Lana is his wife. I mean, it was the most common theory, with it also appearing to include their wedding maybe in this episode as well. The other theory was that it was Ali that could potentially have been Tal-Rho or Morgan's wife. But it just seems it's Lana. Like, Lana just seems like the obvious choice here. Now, in regards to that betrayal, will we see it? And I think you'd have to think so, unless we get episodes later into this season with more flashbacks and stuff like that, which explain it. But I mean, when you have an episode that deals with the flashbacks and the lead up to, well, presumably the lead up to what happened on the Bizarro World that made everything go a bit crazy and, you know, hit the fan, if you know what I mean, you think you'd have to show this betrayal, or at least hint to it, or at least show it really, really quickly. Now, one thing I'm sort of not 100% sure about, but it seems that like the Bizarro Superman and his family are celebrities, and not in the sense like we have on our Earth, where like people know that Superman's a thing and know who he is and see him flying around and stuff like that. Like, they don't know he's Clark Kent, but they know who Superman is and they have posters of him or whatever it might be. But in regards to the Bizarro stuff, or the Bizarro Superman and his family, they like profit off his powers and his, you know, and his celebrity, as well as the powers of their sons, or at least maybe just one son. Because we do see them in like a stretched limo attending some event where apparently Superman's getting an award. And apparently it seems like this is a bit of a frosty family relationship, which, you know, they don't get on too well, which is once again the opposite of what we're seeing on our Earth, where there's much more family camaraderie. But we also do see Jonathan in his Superboy attire, like we saw at the end of last episode as well, going around and signing autographs and stuff like that. Now, of course, this is the opposite of our Earth, as you'd expect, where no profit is made off Superman. Lois isn't married to Superman, she is married to Clark Kent, where on the Bizarro World it seems like she's publicly married to Superman. And of course, Jonathan doesn't have powers on our Earth. Jordan does. But it appears to be the other way around on Bizarro World, with no powers for Jordan, and we do see him crying and stuff like that. It seems like he's struggling. And maybe he's like messed up because of the way his family operates, but he also doesn't like contribute like his brother and his father do. So I'm interested to see what this take on Jordan is going to be like, because it seems like it could be very similar to the Jordan that we met early into season 1, where he was really struggling with his mental health, but he didn't have the, you know, the growth and everything that we saw in season 1 with Jordan as a character. So we might see like a what if scenario with Jordan if he never got his powers. Now, we see someone who appears to be Bizarro Superman looking a little worse for wear, or worse than usual. That's probably the best way to put it, at least based off the flashbacks. And this makes you wonder, is this the beginning of his change, or at least like a certain amount of, you know, time into this change? Which then raises more questions, or at least one big question is, what changes him? Because we saw when he went to see Ali and everything like that, and we even saw the Bizarro Anderson in the present now in the Bizarro World a couple of episodes ago, they're still looking normal. So what changes this Superman, or the Bizarro Superman, to look like he did? Is it the pendant? Is it some weird Kryptonian ritual or something like that? Maybe this is where the betrayal from Tal-Rho's wife comes in, that was referenced a few episodes as well. Like, this is the thing I'm probably the most curious about, like just what changes him, because I have really no idea heading into it what specifically it could be. Like, I think it maybe could revolve around the pendant, or Ali via the pendant, or whatever it might be. Because as I said before, we just know that everyone in his world just looked normal. They didn't look like how he did when he arrived on Earth Prime. So that's what I want to find out. And I just hope we get it explained in this episode. But based off that little shot there with him looking all sweaty, I said this to someone, it looks like he's got food poisoning. Like, that's what it looks like. He's like, oh, I shouldn't have eaten that, you know, that 2-day-old piece of chicken. It looked weird. I shouldn't have eaten it. It looks like he's got food poisoning. But yeah, can't wait to see how they explain all that and what it actually, you know, stemmed from. Now, we do see Jonathan at a party, just the back of Jonathan, and it looks like he might be with Natalie. You can only see the back of her, so it's hard to tell. You can tell it's Jordan because of the hair, and you can just tell it's Jordan. But I'm just not too sure if that's Natalie or not. It could just be some random actress, but I'm going to say it's Natalie, just so we see another Bizarro version of another character. But Jonathan and maybe Natalie are approached by Ali. Now, why is Ali approaching him? Is it maybe to try and recruit Jonathan to help her with her whole business around the pendant? Is it maybe to get through to the Bizarro Superman? who knows? I think that it could be either of those, or maybe she's targeting Jonathan directly. We didn't see Jonathan in those episodes in that that flashback we saw a few episodes ago. We know he's still alive on that Earth by the sounds of it, and obviously we know now that he is alive thanks to him showing up at the end of last episode. But where was he in that whole scenario? Was he disconnected from Bizarro Superman? I'm sure we'll learn now, or we'll find out, might I say, what's all happening there. Now, we do see Bizarro Sam in a bunker with Lois and Jordan, and I think it's the same bunker that Bizarro Anderson is in as well. Or maybe this is normal Anderson, I'm not too sure. But Sam is still in his military gear, though it looks like someone has been living in this bunker. You can see like clothes hung up in the background. Now, this could be like a certain amount of time after something's gone wrong where they have to be in a bunker. And they've been there for a while. Who knows how it's all going to play out in these flashbacks. But Lois is talking about Alley, as in Bizarro Alley, finding a portal to another Earth. So this is probably in like the big build-up of the flashback portion of this episode. And of course, we don't know what Lois is like on this Bizarro Earth either. Is she still a reporter and journalist on this Earth, or who knows? But there is one thing we do know from a previous episode that could be explained in this episode. And that is, of course, that photo that had Lois and Jonathan crossed off in the Bizarro world. I actually misspoke in my review. I said it was Lois and Jordan. And I think it was just because I was confused because Jonathan just showed up. But yeah, it was Lois and Jonathan that are crossed off. You can see it on screen right now, that photo. So what happened to them to be crossed off? Because we now know that Jonathan he's alive. He showed up. And if that's the case, what about Jordan? So does that actually mean Lois is dead? Or there's just a random reason that she's X'd off? It has me really confused. It's probably the most confused I've been in a while with the show, because we just all thought, oh yeah, Lois is dead and Jonathan's dead and Jordan's still there for some reason. We just don't know where he is on this Bizarro world. Now, whether that gets answered or not is another question. That might be something that lingers, until the back half of the season. They could even do a parallel thing where we got Jordan, who's developing his powers on our Earth, on Earth Prime, at a really solid rate, and he's he's learning to fly and mastering his abilities. Who knows what's happening to the Jordan on the Bizarro world? Maybe he's going down a more nefarious route. Maybe he becomes more like Bizarro in the comics, where he's like a villain type character, or maybe transforms into something. But speaking of Bizarro Superman and just Bizarro versions, what are some other Bizarro versions we could see? Could we see a Bizarro John Henry? I mean, that potentially could be Natalie. So maybe we do see a Bizarro John Henry, maybe a Bizarro Kyle, not married to Lana. So maybe we could see him. I put down Bizarro Sarah, but I guess if Lana and Kyle are together, there's not going to be Sarah unless, I don't know, they could chuck the meme in there where Kyle actually is married to that person that he cheated on Earth Prime and they had Sarah or something like that. And maybe even Bizarro Lucy. We could see Bizarro Lucy. This could almost be like those Earth 2 episodes of The Flash back in season 2. Could be pretty cool, pretty different. See different types of characters and different interpretations of them. I think it could be pretty cool to see that. And the final thing to talk about is, does this episode kickstart another big bad? Because the end of last episode seemed like Bizarro Jonathan was arriving on Earth because whatever was happening on his Earth with our Superman had failed or whatever it might be, and Superman looks scared in that final little shot there with the red basking down on him. And there's 5 episodes left after this one, so we're really moving into that final phase of the season, so it really wouldn't be too surprising if this episode kick-started that final phase of the season, where we're heading, maybe introduce another big bad. I'm not saying it necessarily has to happen in this episode where they go, oh, this is who we're versing at the end. But maybe it plants the seed, and then episode 11 and 12, it starts to grow and, form itself. I have the thought, I don't want to say it's a theory, but I have the thought that maybe they do another bait and switch where they started the season making us think it was going to be Doomsday, then it was Bizarro. What if they make it at the end that it actually is like a Doomsday thing? And it's due to the pendants and people merging or whatever it is, and actually creates a Doomsday type, villain for Superman to verse. It's a possibility. Not saying it's going to happen. It's definitely a wild thought or a wild theory, but wouldn't surprise me too much if they baited and switched us again, because Todd Helbing and the writers room for Superman and Lois seem to love doing that. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comments section down below your various opinions on everything we went over in this video. This might have been a bit of a longer video than usual for a trailer breakdown, but it was a longer trailer and there was a lot of stuff here. Pretty much everything that was new was worth talking about. So it was a really good trailer that they did release. But yeah, let me know all your thoughts down there in the comments. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.